Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Welcome back to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. I'm so excited about our Turquoise Talk guest today, Ms. Kasey Bordas. Kasey is a board-certified holistic health practitioner, a functional medicine specialist, as well as a certified master clinical herbalist. She is board certified with the American Academy of Drugless Practitioners, a member of the Holistic Pediatric Alliance and International Institute for Complementary Therapists. She is certified as an autoimmune specialist and has completed continuing education specializing in mold and mycotoxin illness, Lyme disease, and chronic infection in women and children. Bio-individual nutrition therapy for autism and ADHD, autism, and biomedical and holistic interventions, functional nutrition, functional medicine, complementary and holistic pediatric interventions for childhood illness, healing for thyroid disease, and gut-brain connection. Also, correction therapy, autoimmune disease or root cause correction, SIBO, and GI infections, identification and correction. Wow, that is a mouthful. Today, you're going to hear what is a functional medicine specialist? What does holistic living look like? What are some first steps that you can take if that's one of your New Year's resolutions or goals for 2022. So I'm super excited to introduce you to Kasey. So I hope you have your pen and paper ready to roll. Let's get right to it. Well, welcome back, friends, to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. I'm super excited about our Turquoise Talk guest today, Kasey Bordas, who is a functional health specialist. Kasey, thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast and kind of share with us about this topic of holistic health.
Martine, thank you so much for inviting me on here. It is my passion. I could talk and talk and talk about this all day, every day. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah.
And it is such a big topic. And I think I would like to just start out with just telling us a little bit about you, your family, and how you really kind of got into, like, why is this your passion?
So, yeah, I'm a mom. I have a 10-year-old son and my husband. We live here locally in Myrtle Beach. And actually how I got into it was when I was about 17 years old, almost 17. My grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. She and I were so close. She was my best friend. And I started researching herbs and foods, whatever we could do to heal her because the chemotherapy they were giving her was killing her. Mm-hmm. And, at 17, you don't know anything, but that's really what sparked my interest. And can there be an alternative to these types of drugs that I see are killing people and not really healing people? And the love just grew from there and blossomed. And every single book I could get my hands on, I was reading. Fit for Life was one of the first books I ever read. And it was just about this internal environment and how we could eat to clean up our environment. And I was just so blown away and intrigued. And the love for everything holistic just went from there.
And is that a book? Because I love to read. Is that a book that you would say everybody should read?
It's pretty old at this point, but yes, I think so, because it talks about like proper food combining and just the principles of how, what we're eating in our environment are going to affect our internal environment, which is really everything. Our internal environment really determines your immunity and your endocrine system and how you interact with things like food and other types of things in your environment. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful book.
Okay. I wrote that down and we'll include that in the show notes too. Yeah. What does it really mean, like, to be a functional health specialist? Like, how did you get into that? Not why, but like, what are the steps it took for you to get certified or have, all the tools you have for your people? What does it look like?
Many, many certifications. So I honestly started out wanting to be an oncologist. even after the whole thing with my grandmother. And I was like, no, but I need to help these people. That's the only way. So I studied at Coastal Carolina to get my degree in biology and chemistry, which I was going to transfer out to go to College of Charleston and then hopefully get into a medical school after. But something inside me was like, this isn't right. What you're going to be doing is poisoning people. So I switched gears and transferred all my credits over to a holistic health practitioner certification. Actually, first I got my clinical herbology certification, and then holistic health, and then SALS and continuing education, and then my functional medicine practitioner certification came last. But there's been dozens in between, from autoimmune specialists to SIBO specialists to autoimmune diseases in children like PANS and PANDAS. So just so many different pieces. And I'm still learning. I will never, ever stop learning because the science changes, we're changing, our environment's changing. So I'm a lifelong learner.
I love that. So who was like your ideal client? If someone's listening and they're thinking about, the new year and wanting to maybe start being, having a healthier, that's like the number one, New Year's resolutions that people make. Who is someone that you would want to come see you? Like, are they presented with problems initially, or is it just if they're interested and they just want to get started, they would come to you as well? So whether they have an issue yet or not, is that somebody that you want to?
100%. And so I mostly focus on women and children. That's my primary area and by choice, it's my passion. I love working with kids who have issues and chronic illness and neurological issues and diagnoses and any alphabet soup after their name. And then moms and women who are depleted, who are fatigued, who don't understand where their energy go, or just women who don't want to get to that place, who are thinking about conceiving and having a child. And I really, really love to educate women on the state of their body and their health before they conceive, because everything that's going on in your body is going to be then passed on to your child. So if you have a chronic infection, if you have food sensitivities, if you have mineral depletion, your baby is also going to have those things and can create a host of illnesses and conditions for your child. And you have no idea until, symptoms start to manifest around age 2, 3, 4. And then, it's really hard to change at that point. So a lot of women come to me with chronic issues or just, they don't know what's going on. They've been to every different doctor and practitioner and they've done thousands of dollars worth of testing, and they come to me and hand me these portfolios, and they're drained, they're fed up, they're exhausted, they don't have a lot of hope left. But then I also still get the women who come and they're like, I feel great, but I just want to make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be, because that's what I do, is focus on finding things before they become a diagnosis. That's what I would prefer, is to help you pinpoint some of those metabolic imbalances before you end up with a diagnosis or your labs being, abnormal.
Right. So when they come to you, is it a series of like lab work? You do blood work? What's kind of the process? If I'm going to come see you and like, I feel great, but I want to just make sure that I'm on the same page. What's kind of the process that you take them to prevent some of those things?
So the most effective consult is I do a functional lab analysis consult. So labs are not required to work with me. I can consult with you, but if you really want to understand what's happening in your body, labs are going to give us the most information for this point in time. Just to tell us what specifically is your body saying is happening. What are we deficient in? How is your body using these nutrients? So I do a very, very thorough and comprehensive intake, lots of questions. And everyone always tells me, no one ever asked me that before. And we really just dive deep into the history all the way back to, when you were born, living conditions, relationships, because all of those things, have to do with you and how you're experiencing your life. So they're going to play a role in what's going on inside your body and how your body may be manifesting a symptom or disease. So we do the full intake. We decide what labs, if they haven't already had labs, and then we order the labs. And then, I will analyze everything from start to finish with a fine-tooth comb and come up with a comprehensive care plan, depending on whatever I find and whatever they really need.
Right. One of the things that I talk about when I'm talking about women's health with my coaching clients or just on the podcast is there have been so many times not so many times, but I can remember one in particular where I was having some issues. And when I went to the doctor and, that's just normal. It's normal for where you are. It's normal for the season of life that you're in. And I just remember thinking it may be normal. It may be what a lot of women are struggling with, but that doesn't make it right. And I don't want to be just another statistic. Like this is really interfering with my life and with my relationship. And I really want to make it better. And it just seemed like sometimes, don't you, I don't know if you see that when women come to see you or when you're talking to women, but it's almost like accepted as this is just the norm.
Well, I always tell that's a misnomer. And I always tell people that it might be common, right, but it's not normal. And so that really should be the word that they use to describe it. This is common because this is what we're seeing a lot due to the standard American diet or the toxins in our environment or the amount of stress that we are now under, which is just so much more than ever before. So it might be common, but it's not normal.
Right. Yeah, I love those, the way that it just feels different, when it's different, when it's said that way. And it is different because it's almost like, okay, well, I'm just supposed to accept that I feel the way I feel. And not everyone is like you and I, where we're going to try to get down to the root cause of it. And we're just not going to accept it as common. Right. But there are a lot of women who they don't know where to start, and they just feel like, well, all my other friends are feeling the same way. So it must not be that big of a deal. Right. So if someone is listening and they're kind of in that place, whether they're the person that is really having those symptoms and they know something's not right, or they're just trying to get ahead of it, what would you say are like maybe 3 or 5 things they should start doing? Like, how do they get started reversing the damage or preparing to not have the damage?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And so I can see how, people get overwhelmed, which is why when I work with the women one-on-one, I guide them through the step-by-step process. And sometimes it feels really slow, really redundant, really monotonous. But the thing is, it's our little habits, the things that we're doing all day long that are making up the bigger picture. So I always tell, my client, first, you need to take an inventory of your day. You need to actually just sit down and write down everything that you do or you don't do. And reflect on that. How does that make you feel? Do you, like, some people feel like they don't have time for exercise or for eating well. And some people, they don't have the energy to do those things. So where is the problem? Sometimes it's a poor sleep habit. Sometimes it's you actually do have the time. You're just not prioritizing your time appropriately. And so we can make some tweaks there. So really just getting honest with yourself and not judging yourself, just really being honest with what's actually going on. How are you using your time day in and out? That's how we figure out, what do we need to tweak, because I can tell you what diet to be on. I can tell you what supplements you need to be on. I can read all of your labs for you and tell you everything that's wrong. But if you don't make those changes in your day and your daily habits and in your thoughts and, the things that you're doing, none of that matters because it's not going to change.
Right. Those little habits that we kind of take for granted, that are either, it's not taking you closer to your goals, it's taking you further away. But I think that is the work, like you said, that most women don't do, or most people in general, they don't slow down long enough to really take an inventory of where they are currently. So they know what changes they need to make. They just keep going on that hamster wheel of life, which stress leads to burnout. And I always love to ask my Turquoise Talk guests, have you ever experienced burnout? And if you have, what did it feel like for you? And how did you kind of reverse that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a major, major way. And it's not that I've experienced it once. I experienced it again and again and again. I actually experienced it so badly at the end of this last year, just trying to take on too many things. That's what I do. It is my MO. I always want to be there. I always want to help. I want to answer every text, every, PM on Facebook, every email. And there just isn't enough time to do all of that and be the mom that I want to be and do the self-care and be a wife. And unfortunately, my husband gets the end of that. He's the last on the priority list, which really stinks. And I'm working on that. But so you get burnt out. And then all of a sudden, you're like, I just want to run away. Everyone has problems. And I can't anymore. I just can't. So really, really honoring your boundaries. You don't even know what boundaries are. And that's one of my favorite books too. If you read the Boundaries book.
Yes. Game changer.
Serious game changer. And I had to read the one for kids because I didn't learn healthy boundaries as a child. We didn't talk about that. I never grew up with boundaries. So that was something that was huge and eye-opening for me in learning, like, wow, I don't actually have boundaries and I don't honor other people's boundaries. I will just bulldoze and push until I get what I need or what I want. I don't take no for an answer. And that's not healthy. So reflecting a lot on that and knowing what I can and cannot accomplish in a day, and understanding that there's going to be an end to the day. And that just means that you have to honor that boundary, and it doesn't matter what you have or haven't done, that there's going to be a new day. But if you don't honor that new day is going to be harder for you because you're going to be worn out. You're going to be drained. You're going to be pouring from the empty cup.
Right.
So yeah, burnout is a real thing.
It is. And I think especially if you're listening and you're a people pleaser, or you're so passionate like you are about what you do, I'm the same way as a coach. And when someone reaches out to me, like I want to be there for them, and I want to be able to answer their question because I'm so passionate about helping people and serving people. Mm-hmm. And I've had to really just put the phone down, or turn off all the notifications. And because I think it's unrealistic for you, especially if you're not used to having boundaries, to think just, okay, overnight, I'm going to be able to set these boundaries and it's not going to be hard for me. So how can we set, ourselves up for success? And maybe it is just putting the phone in another room. If you're not disciplined enough to not pick it up and check that DM and answer that client or whatever. And, we teach people how to treat us. I truly believe that. And, what we allow, we're teaching them is okay. And it's not that you're coming from a place of not wanting to help them, but you are a mom, and you are a wife, you are you, and you deserve to have some of that time for yourself. But we can't do that if we're still trying to be all things to all people. So I don't think anybody has ever answered. Actually, there was one guest who said, I don't know that I would say I was burned out, but she said I was uninspired. So it wasn't that I was tired. She said I was just uninspired in my life and in my work and all of that. And so I just always like to ask, because it does present itself differently for people, and how they handle it and kind of get out of that burnout state is different. So thank you for being willing to kind of share that with us. So let's talk a little bit about women and hormones and nutrition and how all of that kind of comes into play, because I think it's not a knowledge problem for most of us. It's an implementation, right? It's a putting it into action. We know there's probably a better way. We know that our hormones are impacted by sleep and nutrition, but just being really honest, it just seems so very overwhelming. And I think that's why having someone like you is such a benefit to invest in, because you kind of help us weed out that, or simplify it and give us the accountability to that too. And I've never even worked with you, but I know I've seen enough of what you say on social and the little bit that we have talked. So when it comes to hormones, like what do you see as the biggest that takes women out of that balance with their hormones as far as nutrition or diet or?
It is stress.
Okay.
It is stress, hands down. And I think also a lot of it is mineral depletion and birth control use before getting pregnant. I see that so much in my moms, and they don't understand. They're like, I just had a baby and then, I feel terrible. I just want to feel the way I felt before. I had this really amazing eye-opening experience with a client the other day. And she's like, you know what, just sitting here talking to you, I'm telling you, I want to feel like I did before. But now that you're asking these questions, I didn't feel well before. So I don't think I've ever felt the way I'm imagining that I want to feel. She's like, so I really don't know what that feels like. And so we talked, and, I think those are the questions that we have to be asking too. Like, what are you really trying to feel like? What are you trying to get back to before having a baby? Those hormones may have not been balanced then. Were you suffering from symptoms of hormone imbalance at that time? Were you struggling with your weight? Did you have really terrible acne and PMS? So your hormones may have never been balanced, and that can go back to your gut. That can go back to your liver. But stress in many ways, so mental, emotional, chemical, physical, stress is the number one issue that I see really dysregulating women's hormones. But I just see so many moms with so much stress on them, and their cortisol levels are just so dysregulated. So everything else is really wonky too.
And so what's the, I know there's not like one silver bullet or treatment for that, but how do you kind of help them through that process of decreasing stress? And I ask that because it's really been interesting to me this last 2 years. We've all been in this pandemic, and without getting, down a rabbit hole with COVID and everything, but just the drastic measures that we've done to prevent, or, all the drastic measures that have been happening with, quarantines and masks and all this stuff. Yet stress is going to kill more people on a daily basis than that virus ever will. And it's like, we don't do anything about changing our stress level. We just think, well, that's just the way it is. I'm supposed to live this stressed out mom life. So I just think it'd be interesting to hear how you kind of take them through that process, because stress is always going to be here. It's how we handle that. And if someone's coming into you, how are you helping them to kind of either see the light that, hey, this is a stress issue, and then helping them kind of decrease it a little bit?
So one thing I love to do and I work with people all over the country, but when I have people that are local and they can come into my office, I love to put them on, I have PEMF with a heart rate variability biofeedback monitor. And the reason I do that is because I love to show them how their body actually is responding to stress. We get a look at how their nervous system is functioning and they think they're great. I had a client the other day and she was on it and there was a small boom or bang in the next room and she jumped and her heart rate variability just plummeted all of a sudden and it stayed down. And I was like, do you see your stress response? Like that was a very, very small noise, but your stress response was just right there. So you're in fight or flight. And so I like to first point out to them because you can't feel your nervous system. You can't actually see what's going on, but a lot of us are anxious, we're high strung, we're kind of always on alert. And then if we're moms, you know what? You became like that the second that you found out you were pregnant. You are mama bear. You are that lion guarding the pride. So the nervous system is going to adjust and want to be in fight or flight. So you have to kind of work against it. So I try to get everyone doing meditation, mindfulness, and breath work first and foremost, and first thing in the morning, because how you set the tone for the day is how you're going to go and live your day. And if you could get yourself grounded, despite whatever comes about, whatever's thrown at you, your nervous system is going to be geared and trained to respond in a different way. And it's a training. It's just like muscle memory. You can't just decide you're going to meditate 10 minutes once a week and think that your nervous system is going to change it all. And that's where we get into problems with our stress response. So we have lower stress tolerance. So we want to increase that stress tolerance by altering our brain and the brain chemicals and that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous, balance. We really want to get in there and tweak that. And those are simple things. So I always try. And a lot of people think, meditation, breathing is really woo-woo.
That's not that I think it's woo-woo. It's just really hard for me because my brain has always had something going on. And so like being still and really just kind of meditating, and I've never really had anybody teach me how to do it. I've used, what's the app?
Calm.
Calm. Yeah, it's Calm. When COVID first hit, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this because we were all in the house together. I'm like, I'm going to need to ground myself really good because life didn't change a whole lot for me. I was still working from home, but I had people in my spaces that I wasn't used to. So I think that's the hang up. I'm sure you find that with some of your clients. It's just really hard to get in that zone, with the meditation. So what do you encourage them to use an app like that or?
I do.
I think it's so cool to start your day like that and just prepare your nervous system and rewire your brain so your stress response is better. I love that.
Yeah, and different apps for different times of day. Like Headspace is something I prefer in the morning. We're not trying to zen out in the morning and relax and get our body ready for sleep. So, Calm has some really amazing, like focus on your day, get ready for work, get ready for stress. So they have some amazing programs as well too. But Headspace is really like bringing you into the present. So that's the thing about meditation. You're not trying to zone out and not be present. You're trying to be present without all of those distractions and thoughts and to-do lists and all those things running through your head. So it's not being absent. It's really actually being present. So if we can, train ourselves to stay in the moment and let those thoughts just pass on by as they come. So Headspace is great. There's Brain Tap that's also really amazing too. And then Calm. And some of those do cost a little bit of money, but for what you're getting, it's really worth it. It is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How long would you say it takes, like for someone like me who I've tried it off and on, but just can't seem to get in a good rhythm with it? How long do you feel like it takes for someone to be like, okay, I can do this? I can do this because I kind of stop and go. And I'm not doing it now, but you're encouraging me to get back into it.
Good. So the harder it is for you to sit there for a few minutes, the more you need it, but also the longer it may take you. So it may take you a good 4 weeks of doing it 5 days a week. It may not take quite as long for you, but the more you do it, the less time you actually have to spend in the practice. So you could do it for 5 minutes once you're like a pro at it and you're like, yep, I'm where I need to be. And then you can be anywhere and do it. You don't have to sit somewhere with an app. You have that command over your brain and your mind. So you can just sit there and really encourage that breathing to get to a healthier pattern. Slow down, fill up your abdomen, and really just be present in the moment. You don't need to have the app at that point. But I would say it would take a good few weeks minimum.
Okay.
It's worth it. I promise
you're
it's
inspiring me. So one of my new things for 2022 is to journal. And it's something that my friends that do it love it. And they've taught, you've got to start journaling. I'm like, yeah, I've tried it before and it just didn't love it. And it's been something that I've tried this year. And so far I've done it every single day. And it has been amazing because there's so much change that I've been going through from a professional standpoint and personal standpoint. And I know I can't remember all the things that I'm being taught right now and all the lessons and how God's really using me in my life. And so I'm thankful to be able to do that. So you've encouraged me now I'm going to add some meditation in there and see. I'm a pretty mellow person, I feel like by nature, but I do struggle with just being in the quiet. I feel it with music that makes me feel, present when I'm listening to music. So you're inspiring me. So I'll give it a try and I'll let you know how it goes.
Absolutely. Please do.
So other than meditation, like what would you say are some other things that you help your clients with when it comes to stress? Because I do think women are at an all-time high level of stress. Some of them are having to homeschool their kids. They never had to do that before. Some of them, they're maybe the income is dropped because someone's lost their job because of the situation that we're in. So what are some other things besides meditation that you help them with?
Yeah. And I love that you said that. I have so many homeschool moms as clients, and my hat is just off to them. They are amazing and remarkable. Amazing. And I don't know how they do what they do. And they don't understand. Every one of them is like, I feel like I'm failing. I'm not doing these things well. Like, am I failing my kids? It's just so many questions. And I just want to, just grab them and hug them up and tell them, like, you are doing all sorts of jobs. You're being a mom and a teacher and a wife and all these other things. And some moms are doing businesses as well too. So just so incredible. So again, how we work with that is we have to prioritize our time. Because why do we feel so stressed out? We have so many things on our plate, so many things to do. And what does that actually have to do with health? Well, if you can't prioritize your time, how are you going to prioritize care for yourself, your kids, eating right, most of the time? So we have to think about how much time do we actually have in a day to apply to some of these things that we really want to do. So we look at their time and we figure out what are the negotiables, what are the non-negotiables. Where can we squeeze in something? And I like to do habit stacking. So, just to add something onto something you're already doing. So it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot more work, or you don't have to take time out of your day and away from your children, because that's a big issue for moms too. So we habit stack. So I wish there was just one thing that was reducing stress, on a simple thing is like, all right, get some adaptogenic herbs and support yourself with movement and exercise and like the Calm app and all those things, get time away. So it's not ever just one thing, but what has the biggest impact, I think, is really, really being honest with yourself in that schedule and figuring out what can I deprioritize? What do I need to make as my priority? Because not everything is as important as we feel like it is. We do not have to get that whole task list checked off every day, even though we feel like we do. And we also need to ask for help.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. And, if everything is a priority, then nothing is. And I think that's the problem is everything seems like it's so important and it's not until you slow down, like you have your clients do, to really look at everything on your plate and realize, okay, that's really not important in this season of my life. It's not forever. I think that's where we have that all or nothing mentality, especially as moms. And if you're homeschooling or if you have a business, it's just like this all or nothing mentality. If I don't have an hour to exercise, well, 15 minutes doesn't really matter. It does.
It does.
It does. And I'd rather see you do 4 15-minute sessions than not do anything at all, or even just 1 15-minute is going to get you away from and help you release some endorphins and just get movement in your body. And you have to start somewhere. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on, because I think there are so many who want to do these things. They just don't know where to start. And they feel like if they can't take on the whole holistic view, which is a lot. Would you not agree?
It's a lifestyle. It's not, you can't do it all at once. And I used to try to, let's change your diet. Let's make you drink more water. Let's exercise. Let's all these things. Yeah. It's overwhelming. You cannot do that. It's taken me, all these years, and my husband finally a decade, he's on board. And so it's a process. So you have to just pick the one thing that's going to have the most impact on your life. If you're not moving at all, you need to be moving for your sanity, for your bones, for your body, for your metabolism. So if that's the thing that is going to have the biggest impact on every area, then pick that, focus on that, master that, and then move on to something else.
Right. Don't try to boil the ocean. and
Yeah.
try to do it all. Cause then you just throw the towel in and say, oh, this is too overwhelming. I'm just going to quit. Even if you have someone like Kasey, to help you through it, when you're still the one having to do the work, it just gets overwhelming when you're trying to do all the things yourself. So I want to have you back on because I want to talk about kids too. I know that's your passion. You said was women and kids. And I do think that I'd love to have you on and kind of talk about that. But just for the sake of this interview, if there is a mompreneur who's listening, like what's one thing you would want her, not if there, I know there's mompreneurs listening, but if you could just for 5 minutes talk to all the mompreneurs in the world, like what would be the one or two things you want to make sure they understand with regards to maybe holistic health or?
Oh, okay. I'm like, there's so much.
I know. Well, it doesn't have to be just holistic health, but
we'll narrow down. Okay. So, but thinking of holistic, what is holistic health anyway? It's the whole health. So it's, your family is very important to you. Being a mom is very important to you, but your career is also very important to you. And we talk a lot about mom guilt. I talk so much about mom guilt to my clients. And that's the thing, is that use that as your barometer. If you're having a lot of guilt about something, are you spending your time the way that you really want to be spending it? I know a lot of us get kind of caught up in like the shoulds. Well, I should be doing this, or someone told me I should be doing this for my business. And so I feel really obligated to do this. Like I feel obligated to be at the office this many hours, or I should be grinding it out like everybody else. Not if that's not authentic to you. So you always just have to stay authentic to yourself and your family and what's best, and prioritize that over everything else, all the exterior stress and expectations that other people are putting on us, or even that we could be putting on ourselves because we're trying to meet that expectation. Mm-hmm. So from a holistic standpoint, your mental, emotional happiness is just as important as everything else, your bottom line, your business, and even your children's health. So think about, this is really important for holistic health, like where your kids are watching you. So whatever you're doing, if you're grinding it, burning the candle at both ends, they're going to see that. And that's what they're going to mirror. And they're not going to honor themselves or downtime or relaxation. And they're going to think that the grinding and the go, go, go is the way it's supposed to be. Even if it's painful, even if we're hurt, even if we're sick, we just keep on going. So always remember what you're doing, and your habits are showing, and your kids are watching you, and they're learning how to be in life. So that's something that's really important. Mm-hmm. And then if you're struggling just with your health, and a lot of people are like, I can't do all this, it's so expensive. And, I've got these issues and one day I'll get to them. Friend, let me just tell you, don't put them off. Just do not, because you don't know that there is going to be a little bit later. And you want to be there for your mom or your family. You're a mom. You want to be there for your family, your kids. So what I say is prioritize. This is what I do in my family. My son has had to go through health issues. I've had my own health issues. So what we did was prioritize. Well, this is the most important. We're going to save money, and we're going to do this test on, this month. And then we're going to go from there. And then we're going to see whatever we need to do to take care of what we find there. And then we just prioritize for the year. So we sit down at the beginning of the year, we think about our finances and budget, and we really add in like the health is a priority. It's not something that should be second to the trips and the home remodeling and all those other things and extracurriculars. Like it should also be a priority, if not the highest one. And I think we've learned that over the past couple of years. So sit down, budget, even if you can't do it all now, allocate funds to be able to do it in 3 months and 6 months, because your health is not something that you can get back sometimes. So we want to deprioritize and just wait. We want to make sure like everything's good now. If there's something going on, I need to take care of it before it becomes too big of a problem.
Right. Because that one day never comes if we're all just truly honest with ourselves. We say one day I'm going to do this, or when the kids are out of the house, we'll go back to date nights, or when this business gets to this status, then I can start focusing in on my health or whatever. But, none of us are guaranteed another day and another moment. And we've all witnessed that these last 2 years. And hopefully, I think for some people, it has caused them to reevaluate those priorities that you were just talking about. And I think that's why so many are trying to get healthier, and they want to prevent the illnesses that they know are going to come or could potentially come. And so I do think it's important to continue the conversation around this and around priority. And while it's not fun, it's not fun to spend money on a roof on a house, but we had to do that last year. And, you have to have a roof over your house, when you live in a place where there's hurricane storms come. And it's the same thing with your health, whether it's from a mental health standpoint or physical health. We have to learn to invest in ourselves, because our businesses, our parenting, our marriages are only as good as we are. And I think we do live with that mom guilt. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is such a real thing that women struggle with. And I did off and on when I was building my business. And I mean, to be honest, I think we all kind of go in and out of it, a little bit because we care so much about our kids. We care so much about our profession and trying to find that harmony. I don't really love the word balance, but finding that harmony between your work life and your family life. So I love what you said just about guilt. I think a lot of it is misplaced guilt, and it's by looking at what everybody else is doing and feeling bad that you're not doing what they're doing. I do think it could be a real gut check too, to be thinking about, okay, why am I feeling this way? Am I keeping my time and my priorities the way it should be, and use it to fuel the change. Don't use it to sit back and whip yourself with it, because
exactly,
that's what moms do. We sit there and beat ourselves up over something that our kids could care less about. Like my kids don't care that I'm not the one that cooks every single night. As long as we're around the table together every night, that's what's important to them. But I didn't know that until I asked them, what's really important to you, at me being at every game or every practice, or just these certain ones. And it's just interesting. I know you find it with your clients, the things we put on ourselves that are important or we think is important, when really our kids are like, yeah, I don't really care. It's not that big a deal, Mom.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Show up for the real stuff, the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Always just let them know you're there. They can talk to you. You love them. Squeeze them before they go to bed. I mean, we're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We can't be perfect. And they need to see that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask, as we wrap up, what are some of your favorite, like, tangible, either resources or apps? I know we talked about Calm and Headspace, and we talked about the book Fit for Life. Are there any other things that would really help someone who's trying to get started with some of those things that you mentioned earlier? Is there an app for that? We love our apps. So is there something easy for them to kind of track their day? You talked about timing. Is it just putting pen to paper? Like, what are some of your favorite things that you help with your clients kind of getting on track with things?
Yeah. And so when I take clients into my program, they have an app inside my practice software so they can track all those. But a lot of the clients still just prefer to put it on paper or in their notes section. But one app I really love is MyFitnessPal. It's free. It's really simple to use. I think everybody on the planet has heard of that. So it's just going in, actually looking at your macros, figuring out when you're eating the most calories of your day and seeing if you can make tweaks from there. But a lot of people don't know what they're eating. They think they're like, I'm eating healthy. I'm like, but is it right for you? And until you spend the time taking and tracking that inventory, you really don't know if you are eating right for your body. So that is one of my favorite tools and apps. What else do I use? Yeah, Headspace, Calm. I think it's just called Flow for tracking your period, sometimes just to see. And, a lot of women are not regular, so they really just don't know. They're not sure when they're ovulating, but really tracking your period, and even in a notebook, can help you to be prepared for when your period's coming. You can change your schedule, you can change your diet, you change your lifestyle for a while, because we're cyclical. That's what we are as women. And we need to be able to work with our cycles, not against it. So that's one of my favorite ones. Always use the EWG app just to see if I'm in the store. Like, is this a good product? Is this safe? Is this clean? Or is this vegetable on the list that I can buy this month or this year that's safe?
What's it called? EWG?
The EWG app. It's a free app, and it tracks and it tells you like the safety of different products, and it rates them. It gives them a numerical value so you can see, and it lists all the different ingredients and tells you which ones are more problematic. So you can decide something you're willing to use or not. And then you know what book actually was amazing?
What?
Have you read Present Over Perfect by Shauna?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, girl. Okay. It's like one of my number one recommendations. It's funny because when I read that book was the year that I launched my Choose You course. And I literally wanted to email Shauna and be like, your book. And we're so in sync, like my story is different than her story, but our passion for the less hustle and just being present, it was just, I'm like, she didn't even know who I am. So it's not going to be a big deal. I never did email her. I probably should, but no, that's a great book. I love that book.
Yeah. You feel like she wrote it for you. I was like, this is me.
I was just cheering. I was just cheering. I'm like, God, there's somebody who understands my passion for women. And there's someone who understands that there is a better way than hustle all the time, even as a professional woman. And it was just really confirming to me that I'm not alone out here and trying to go against the hustle grain, the mindset that most mompreneurs, even including myself, were kind of raised up. Yeah. You got to hustle hard to get there and
grind,
grind, but not for the sacrifice of my family and my health. And because what's the success worth if you're there by yourself? when you get there because you've lost your husband or you've lost your kids or, you've lost yourself in the process. So
Exactly.
I'm glad you brought that book up because if y'all have not read that book and you're listening to this podcast, you definitely need to go grab that today. There was something else I wanted to ask you. Is there any, I know you do try to tailor the diet and everything to each person, but is there any foods or that you're just like completely off limits? Like, it doesn't matter what their background is, or is there anything that you're like, do not put that in your mouth? Do not ever put that in your body. Is there anything like that? Or is that like a long list? You're like, that's a whole nother podcast.
No, but I don't believe in absolutes.
Okay.
I do believe in taking away some of the most inflammatory things for a period of time because I don't want people thinking that I'm telling them. I want you to see it for yourself. I'm all about teaching someone to be intuitive and eat intuitively. So I can say all day long, gluten is inflammatory. And they're like, no, I don't have celiac. It doesn't bother me. But how do you know that's not the thing causing your little chicken skin or your knee pain or your sinus issues? My husband's one of those examples. He fought me for a decade on it. It made him so irritated anytime. I'm like, just try it.
Right.
And he did. He finally gave in and tried it. And he had been on allergy medication every day since who knows how long, for years and years. And he got off all the allergy meds. The pain in his feet went away. So, and I'm not saying gluten is that for everyone. I'm just saying there are some foods that are just going to be more inflammatory because they're genetically modified or they've been treated because they need to be hardier for mass production. Gluten is one of those. Corn is another one. Dairy is inflammatory too. But not everybody has an issue with all of these. And maybe in moderation, they're more tolerable. But I always say, like, those are some foods that you need to take a serious, hard look at because they're very, very, very inflammatory for the gut. If they're inflammatory for the gut, they are also inflammatory for your brain. So you need to take a good long look at maybe you don't feel like you have a sensitivity, but unless you go a good 90 days and take those foods out and be 100% compliant, you don't know.
Right. You don't know that you're feeling that bad. You don't know that you're feeling that bad. When I realized some of the foods that were inflammatory for me, my husband and I both, and dairy was definitely one of them. Like, we loved snacking with yogurt, with peanuts or some crunch in it. And that was our favorite go-to snack. And when we kind of went through a process and tried to really figure out what was inflammatory for us and we got rid of it, we were both like, wow, I didn't realize how bad I was feeling until I took it away. And then when I put it back in to test, oh no, can't do it. Your body tells you,
if you listen to it, you can learn. And that's my method, is like the spaghetti strainer method. We put all the stuff into the strainer. We shake out the most obvious, your habits, your sleep, your diet, and then we see what's left. Because everyone always wants to jump to, let's do all the expensive testing and figure out all the things that are wrong with me. Okay. And it brings us back to the beginning. But if you're eating an inflammatory diet, if you are living an inflammatory lifestyle and you have tension with your husband, or you are constantly stressed, or you're not sleeping, those things are really not going to matter. We're not going to be able to heal you from your chronic infection and illness anyway. So going back to that, and there are 1,000 inflammatory foods. Think about polyunsaturated fatty acids and some of the seed oils and high-end chicken and some of the things that people think are super, super healthy. And they're okay in moderation, but people are going on the far end of the spectrum because they're trying to avoid something else that they've read is really bad, like saturated fat. So really what they're doing is loading up on these other inflammatory foods in high quantities. So it's very, very bio-individual, but we have to just think about what is it that our body needs? How can I quiet this inflammation for a while to listen to what it needs and then go from there?
And it's not, like you said earlier, it's just not a quick fix. And I think, we are such in a society of instant gratification. And while progress does create more progress, and that's why it's important to get a little bit of progress in the beginning, because it helps you to kind of keep those healthy habits going. Like, we want it yesterday, we want to have the weight loss yesterday. We want to be able to feel better yesterday. It's just a process, and you have to be your own best advocate for your body and your health. And you have to be willing to listen. So I love the strainer. My brain I'm a visual person. So when you started talking about the strainer, I'm thinking about my spaghetti strainer that I had the other night. Kind of filtering out and figuring out what is best for you. And I love that. And that's really one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on, because I do see that you're not a one size fits all. And I don't believe that, we all have different DNA, and how can we think that one way is going to be the best for everyone? And so I just challenge all of you that are listening, if, how can they reach out to you if they want to work with you, Kasey, or just want to get more information on it? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a website. It's holisticfamilywellness.net. On Facebook and Instagram, Holistic Family Wellness, Kasey Bordas. And you can call my office, my practice manager. Her name is Doreen. She's amazing. very loving. She just will do anything to help you. And so she can put you in touch with me as well too. And that number is 843-957-7067 if anybody wants to give her a call. But go to our website. I have lots of free resources. I always have guides for free, blogs. So lots of different things and resources for everybody to kind of fit where you are in your journey, because everyone's in a different place. Not everybody's ready to jump in, but when you are, we have the program to help you with that.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I would challenge you, even if it's not Kasey, maybe you've known someone in your area that's a holistic functional health specialist and you've just been thinking about it. Maybe this will spark interest to go and just kind of take that next step. We all have a next step, and a responsibility to take that next step. So I encourage you all to do that. And Kasey, thank you so much for your time today and coming on. I will have you back on because I do want to talk about kids, and mine are 14 and 17, but not that matters, but I think there's a lot of moms of littles that are trying to make better choices for their children too. So I'd be interested to have you back on if you'd be willing to come back on and talk about it.
I would love that so much. It's my favorite thing. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank y'all for tuning in to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast again. And I look forward to catching you on a next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.